Welcome to NovoEDTalks, where we reveal real-world strategies and expert insights from learning and development professionals. In every episode, we chat with practitioners, course designers, learning strategists, and business leads. We hear about their experiences in the learning industry and predictions for the profession and the trends that they're seeing. But before we get started, a little bit about NovoEd. Founded at Stanford's Social Algorithms Lab in 2012, NovoEd is a people-centric capability-building platform that combines social and collaborative learning to drive performance readiness at scale. Through cohort-based experiences centered around human interaction, NovoEd taps into collective wisdom, placing each learner at the center of perspective, application, and expertise. Large enterprises such as 3M, GE, Marriott International, and Nestle partner with NovoEd to accelerate their critical initiatives, reconnect teams, and achieve rapid alignment through learning that is felt, experienced, and swiftly transformed into impact. Now, let's meet our guest for today's episode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the NovoEDTalks podcast, a space for training trailblazers to get real. My name is Melissa Fisk. I'm the producer of the NovoEDTalks podcast, and today I am joined by Elizabeth Gomez, who is the Director of People Experience at Costa Farms. Liz has a PhD in psychology and over 18 years of rich experience spanning academia, organizational consulting, and human resources. Since joining Costa Farms in 2016, after relocating from Puerto Rico to Miami, Liz has been instrumental in shaping the company's people-centric culture. As the Director of People Experience, she leads a dynamic team dedicated to enhancing employee experiences, engaging training programs, comprehensive onboarding, and effective hiring and retention strategies. Liz, it is an absolute pleasure to have you on the NovoEDTalks podcast today. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you, Melissa, for that introduction. Like you mentioned, my name is Elizabeth Gomez. People call me Liz at Costa Farms, where I'm currently the Director of People Experience. My team and I are part of the bigger HR department. We partner with the HRBPs, the business managers to support our team members, even before they join the company and throughout the talent cycle. So it includes recruiting, onboarding, learning and development, engagement activities, surveys, performance evaluations, and internal and some external communications. For people that don't know us yet, in Costa Farms, we grow plants, people, and even bugs. A bug's life, that's another story. But for today, I want everyone to know that in Costa Farms, we strive to bring plants into everyone's life, their homes, their workplaces, everywhere, as we believe all thumbs are green. So again, Melissa, thank you so much for having me today.
I love that. Thank you, Liz. I could probably use some tips. I'm notorious for killing my houseplants. But why don't we talk a little bit about that? We can talk about that offline. Why don't you talk a little bit about some of your learners who you oversee and what some of their biggest workforce development challenges are?
Perfect. Yes. We are committed to supporting three main types of learners or audiences with our learning and development programs. So I'm going to go with the largest audience first. It's at our front line, our more than 4,000 farm workers. They speak for the most part Spanish or Creole and may not be digitally savvy or even literate. So that's the first audience. The second audience is our merchandisers. They are at the front line as well. They are on the go. Sometimes they are facing our end consumers at your local garden center. And besides the mobile aspect of their jobs, they also have other constraints like time constraints. So we really need to get creative about how to continue developing them. And last but not least, we have our corporate audience, people in accounting, supply chain, marketing, IT, HR professionals. And their challenges, our challenges, are typically work-life balance, remote work versus return to office, stress management, time management, project management, financial literacy. It's a lot of soft skills. I prefer to call them power skills. So yeah, for that audience, the corporate audience, we target soft skills, power skills, and technical skills as well.
Wow. Yeah. So talk about, I think you probably have the broadest set of learners and challenges than maybe anyone else we've had on this podcast before, just in terms of the types of people you're dealing with, the work that they're doing, and what their day-to-day looks like. That's incredible. How do you kind of, as the skill sets needed for all of these roles and just in the industry in general continue to shift? What strategies does your team use to prepare and make sure that the workforce remains adaptable?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Right now, we are heavily focusing on cybersecurity. The cyber attacks have been getting more real, more constant. So that's one thing that we are really focusing on this year. And as you mentioned, teaching people to thrive in uncertainty and adapt to disruption, not only surviving it, is important. So we use the growth mindset framework and the SCARF framework, where we teach them to be resilient, and that helps a lot to comprehend that we're humans at the end of the day, and change is gonna get faster and faster, more constant, and we're giving them those tools to understand that our mind is going to see a situation or a problem and think, is it a threat or a reward? And then with the tools that we're giving them, they're able to hopefully thrive. Another thing that comes to mind is cross-functional training. And I do have a short story about that. A few years ago, when our chief people officer took over, she told us her values and her beliefs, and one of them was cross-functional training and skill diversification. And we saw how from one or two experts in our HRIS, we were able to have multiple people in the team knowledgeable to take over tasks and processes in the system. So nowadays we can collaborate together and provide a better customer service to our internal customers.
That's incredible. Wow. How does your team, I mean, there's so many different things going on, how do you assess and address skills gaps to stay agile in the changing workforce? And, you can talk about that at a high level, or maybe for these specific groups that you're working with.
Yes, as you can imagine, we don't have that many resources. Is like I call it, it's like 7 cats in my team. So we cannot do it alone. We partner closely with the HRBPs and the managers across all departments and OUs. We also encourage failure-based learning. So in other words, we encourage safe to fail environments where people can learn from their mistakes. And the regular things you're going to see are simulations, right, in our learning activities. But also, I want to highlight our Innovation Awards program. This year, we are admitting and rewarding unsuccessful trials. So it means that we are asking people to innovate, and if they don't succeed, like the outcomes were not as desired, still they can document it, share it, and get rewarded. So I think action speaks louder than words. As I was mentioning, growth mindset, we go above and beyond to not only teach about that, but creating those spaces for people to apply the growth mindset and then get rewards.
I love that. I love that phrase, failure-based learning. I mean, in some ways, that's where the best learning happens, right? So I just think that's a very cool concept or turn of phrase to use for that. It's awesome.
100%, yes.
And make it a powerful thing where it's failure-based learning, where it's still a positive, let's take the word failure, but it's a learning thing. So let's make it a positive. That's awesome.
Correct.
How do you currently measure the effectiveness of your programs, and do you have any core KPIs that you use?
Yes. You know, at the beginning, when I started almost 10 years ago, we were focusing on the reaction level in our learning and development program. So the famous satisfaction surveys. We're moving away from that level in our learning management system. We do measure learning through post tests. But in general, I would say that we are keeping it at the results level. So for us, organizational outcomes that reflect long-term impact are more important. And right now, what we're doing is we correlate some KPIs to our learning activities. And obviously, we report to our executive team so they can continue to sponsor our efforts. Some of those KPIs, to give you some examples, are increased productivity, reduced turnover or employee retention, right, tenure, higher promotion rates, and improved performance ratings.
Yeah, that's great. Those are awesome KPIs, and I'm sure that that changes a little bit, in terms of like what that signifies based off of like what you're teaching and where you're teaching it and how. But it's great that you have those and can apply them for the different groups that you have. Do you have an example of a successful case study of an L&D or mentoring initiative that you could share that y'all are really proud of over there?
Yes. In general, Costa Farms is heavily invested in learning programs. And we believe in paid learning during work hours. So literally, we pay people to learn. We offer structured, formal learning opportunities during regular work hours. So as you can see, we are signaling that development is a priority, and we don't want to burden people after hours. It's a long shift to then ask them to complete some learning activities at home. And you can imagine that this is boosting participation, equity, morale, more so for people in the front lines, right? Because we are driving this point that is so powerful, that removes barriers to access. And it's basically, like I mentioned before, actions speak louder than words. So we are committed to people's growth. And we have in-house programs, but we also partner with a lot of nonprofit organizations and educational institutions. I'm going to give you a few examples. Locally here in Miami, we partner closely with Miami-Dade College, and as we speak, they are testing for GED. So we're helping our people to complete their GEDs. And we also partner with University of Florida, UF. That one is for everyone globally in the company, where they have an online program in English and Spanish that is completely online, and we pay for it. People can take courses on horticulture. So basically weed management, pest management, and how to take care of our plants, right? And our pride and joy, I have to say, is Alphalit International. This is a nonprofit, religious-based organization that we partner with. And during work hours, again, we are teaching our employees how to read and write in their native language, either obviously Spanish or Creole, and basic math skills. Also, we have within Alphalit an English as second language, which is more conversational in nature. So as you can imagine, we cannot do it alone. Like, it's not only a partnership with Alphalit International, but also the success of this program is a combination of the passion of my people, first and foremost. And then we have amazing volunteers, which in other words are team members from other departments, right? That usually corporate audience, that they come and they donate their time to help us teach our employees, right? How to read, write English. And lastly, our executives, right? We have their buy-in and they support us amazingly. So yeah, I think those are a few examples, and very, very proud of Alphalet among all of them.
Yeah, that's incredible. And not only is that, I'm sure, very successful for the company, but just, enriching these individuals' lives and like how rewarding that is. That's
Super rewarding.
incredible, and can really make you feel good about the work that you're doing. That's awesome.
Yes.
What role does technology play in your programs, and how do you leverage tools and platforms to kind of enhance the learning and mentoring experiences for your employees?
Yes, we definitely need to talk about AI. And even when AI is taking over and might assist with everything that we do, what we're seeing is that we have to balance with the human aspect. And that brings me to the 10-20-70 learning model, which explains that 20% of the learning happens socially, right? On collaborative opportunities. Our people are asking for that. And we're seeing that it adds value. So we're creating spaces for peer learning and communities of practice. We use Teams in particular, but I know other companies use Slack or Zoom, any internal social network that can formal, informal learning. That also helps with user-generated content. So what we're seeing is that our team members are increasingly contributing to these learning ecosystems by sharing their knowledge, their experience, their best practices. Just this year, we launched a book club with this in mind. We also launched a wellness channel. Well, people are sharing about like tips about nutrition, physical exercise, financial literacy, mental health. And the last example is the channel for leaders. So in that channel, people are sharing podcasts that they follow, books that they're reading, even movies, articles that they recommend. So that balance between technology, but also our human nature.
Yeah, when you applied correctly, you really can use technology to, enhance connection. I think sometimes there's this like, oh, well, we're remote. It's hard for us to connect. And there's actually tools and things that you can do to really like enhance that employee connection and like promote work-life balance, a little bit more transparently, which I think is beautiful and a lot of organizations have done. So that's a great example to share. Kind of on the flip side of that question, as you're looking to the next 5 years, how is your team leveraging technology to kind of enhance employee experiences?
Yes. So some of us are piloting Copilot, pun intended. So definitely leveraging AI, though it hasn't been institutionalized yet. We are working on breaking it, right? Learning from it and creating policies. So besides that, we are also focusing on making sure that we're a skill-based organization and leveraging our main point of truth, our HRIS, to remain human-centric and focus on those skills. So we use the framework by Korn Ferry, the Korn Ferry competencies, and we train and we plan to continue training on empathy, communication, creativity, because as we see AI handling more technical tasks and processes, right, through automation, we want to, in the next few years, to continue highlighting those human-centric skills. And since last year, and we will continue in the future, we're focusing on tough conversations and leadership skills, personality, communication styles, that type of things, I think will take it to the future as well. But as you mentioned before, leveraging the technology like LMS, Teams, Slack, whatever networks that we're using.
That's brilliant. And I think so forward thinking to, be obviously accepting that yes, AI is here. It's going to enhance productivity. It's going to like rapidly transform how quickly we can do things or whatever. So yeah, we'll figure that out. We'll learn that. But what do we need to be doing to preparing? And it's like preparing, keeping the human element of things, I think is so forward thinking and very, very smart, very intentional.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yes.
To close on a positive note, Liz, what is the most important lesson you'd say you've learned in your journey that you would pass on to someone just starting out on theirs?
Wow. I love this question, by the way. So many thoughts come to mind, especially since we have an in-house leadership program where one of our core pillars is communication. I know it's a very broad topic, but within communication, I would suggest first and foremost, beginning with listening and then meeting people where they are. I mean, at their level, focusing on what's relevant to them, what's their preferred communication styles, and and then connecting the dots for them. We cannot assume. We have to ask good questions, follow up, provide feedback so that we can make a real connection. And talking about real, I think that's my last recommendation. Keep it real.
Yeah.
Humanizing the interactions allows people to perform at their best. That's what I believe in.
Absolutely. It's so powerful, so true, so simple, but just remember that you're human and that you're dealing with other humans, right?
Correct. Yes.
Well, Liz, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the NovoEd Talks podcast. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Melissa.
And thank you to our listeners for tuning in to another episode of NovoEd Talks.